We're here with Paul Rivera and his Murciélago. Tell us a little bit about it, Paul.
Well, it's a 2002 six-speed manual gated shifting Murciélago V12, 580 horsepower. I have an aftermarket exhaust by LOC from Orange County, which is probably giving me another 15 horsepower, but it's giving me that tone. Removing that rear muffler. First of all, when you remove the rear muffler, you're shedding like 80 pounds, which is important, and also you're really opening up the tone of this car and some horsepower. So I love that, and you have some extra. Speaking of exhaust, they're a little on the ridiculous side because they're 5-inch tips. They look like two cannons. At first I thought it was cartoonish, but now I'm kind of grown into it. I kind of dig it. Very generous of a good friend of mine, Terminal 8 on Instagram, Johnny Akopian. I got this car. I was chasing it for a year from an owner who died, and it was an estate. He had this car, and he had an H1 Hummer. Brought my buddy John Akopian. He bought the H1 Hummer. Got him a killer deal on that. Got a killer deal on this. And Johnny was gracious enough to give me an LP640 hood, which is glass, which you can see through it. So normally the Murciélagos don't have the see-through glass. The early ones, they're lighter. The disadvantage is this is heavier, but I gotta see the engine, right? Which is pretty cool. And it actually saved me because I saw a little power steering leak because I had the glass too spinning on, so that was helpful. The gated shifter. I had a Diablo SV before, currently rebuilding or maintaining or changing the clutch out of a 92 Diablo now, but nothing could beat this 6-speed gated shifter. That first to second gear is irreplaceable, unlike the earlier Diablos where it was dogleg, which is fine. Just that 1 to 2 took a little minute, a little massaging. They perfected the 6-speed, and then they got rid of the 6-speed, and everything's paddle shifting, unfortunately. But having the V12 tone behind my head, that exhaust, and when you're around 4,500 RPMs, you start hitting the variable cams, and it really opens up the engine. So you get this big torque kick and the click of the gate. It's completely irreplaceable. And you're still this car. It's not stupid fast like a 700 horsepower 720 where you can't do anything. You still got to work for your power. And I like that. It's a car you can definitely keep growing into. Not going to get bored of this car. This is a keeper for sure. When I sold the Diablo SV, I thought it was fine, but it left a little hole in my heart. And so I didn't think I could replace that feeling, but this has definitely taken that over. It's 70% stiffer than the Diablo previous gen, but Diablo chassis, very similar, same Vizzarini engine, just bigger, again with the variable cam. So you still have the Diablo DNA, just in a slightly better chassis. Then you have the all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive is a little heavier, and you're not going to throw out the rear end, but at the same time, in the canyons, you want that little added safety of you're in trouble, hold on to that throttle, and I kind of like that. So the two most important switches on this car is the airlift. Anytime you approach a curb, you want to be able to pump that up. And another important switch is shutting off the traction control, because the traction control in the Murciélago was definitely set up by lawyers. Any type of hammering whatsoever just kills the car. So you got to shut that off immediately. It's just, you can't drive it without shutting the traction control. So the cool thing is when you shut the traction control, you manual, all-wheel drive, you're doing the driving. You are doing the driving. Nobody's coming in to save you. It's a real experience, a real analog experience, and I love it. There's a lot of loose gravel here on Nationalist Crest, so sometimes I add a little blue tape. Just some added protection. It's a driver's car. There's some scratches. It looks pretty clean, but there's some scratches, and I like that because it allows me to drive the car. Murciélago prices are going a little high, so that just tells me I could drive more and break even. Driving this car, this is one of my first canyon runs with these new tires and wheels. Before I had aftermarket wheels, they were forged, and there were 20s in the rear, 19s in the front. These are back to the 18s. So when I had the 20s, the profile of the tire was 30 versus 35. It's a little stiff and a little jittery, so I wasn't sure is this how a Murciélago feels? It still felt awesome, but I want to know. But now with the OEM wheels, the Hercules wheels and the 18s and the sidewalls going up a little bit, it's amazing just because it's not jittery, but it's stiff. Yet around the turns, there's no sudden, I mean, everything's very linear, very stable. There's no jittery movements that make it unpredictable. I love driving this car. I love it just, and being able to drive it gives me all the confidence to really push around the corners. And you can feel like just that all-wheel drive just about to brake, but it's just as long as you hold it, pulls right back in. It's an incredible experience around these canyons for sure. You got the click of the gate, you got the slamming around the turns, you got some new Continentals. Unfortunately, there's no more P0s in OEM sizes right now. Impossible to get. This is one of the few tires you can get that actually have the OEM sizes, the extreme contacts. I was a little worried they wouldn't be sticky enough, but they've been amazing. So, again, I'm growing into this car. I'm very lucky to have Angeles Crest. And, you know, weekday mornings are just not that crowded, so you really get to feel what this car can do. These things are cool. They come up when it's super hot to get more intake and cooling. So you get more air intake and cooling. When they go up, sometimes it makes me nervous, like, oh, the car's unhappy, it's too hot. They're not going to come out now, but in the summer, August, when it's 115 out, these puppies definitely go up. And they have, like, one of the reasons this car is called the Bat, which is named after a famous fighting bull, but also these intakes that pop up kind of look like a bat.